Christmas time, man. I mean, you gotta love Christmas time. Well, unless you're my wife, her birthday's on Christmas, so you don't really feel as special that day. And I know for her, she doesn't, but I usually try to do my best to make her feel special. But Christmas time is such a great time. It's where family gets around, friends, loved ones, and you just really enjoy this family time together. I mean, we go more in depth about what Christmas means to each one of us, but could be different to each and every one. So we won't get into depth on that. But Christmas as a whole is just such a great time for me and my family. So I hope everyone out there had a great Christmas. And I hope, David, you had a great Christmas as well. But let's get this thing started here, guys. I want to welcome you to Total Sports Talk Beyond the Lights, where I'm your host, Matthew Raridan. And with me today is my co-host, David Street.
Metaphorical hat tip to you guys.
Yes, we get a rare sighting today of David without the Florida Gators hat. And I mean, look at that hair, look at that beard. I mean, you're already on your way to Head and Shoulders contract, in my opinion.
Well, that would definitely be nice. I could definitely use it for various reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say let's get Mahomes out of there. Let's get David Street in there. Him and Troy Polamalu, I think, great partnership right there. So Head and Shoulders, if you're listening, that's David Street.
And I use Head and Shoulders shampoo too, so it works out perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, I've used it for many years, and this is not a sponsorship by no means, but yeah, I've used Head and Shoulders for many years. Honestly, it's one of the only shampoos out there that just works great for me. So,
Dude, best Head and Shoulders hands down is the bourbon one.
the bourbon
So
one,
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll usually use the Old Spice. Is it the Pure Sport one? Or that or the Swagger?
Yeah.
Smells great, feels great. It's just one of those that gives you a good look. So, and it helps with dandruff. So I've always used it, and it's a great product. I'm your typical guy. Get that 2-in-1 shampoo conditioner combo. So, I mean, you're doing two things at once. I mean, two birds with one stone. I mean, how can you complain when it comes to that?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but speaking about complaining, this last weekend, and we had NFL matchups. Even though it was Christmas, NFL brought some very great football matchups, but some were complaining because, well, they checked their stocking and they got coal, while others were celebrating because, well, they were gifted presents. So, me and David are going to talk about who were gifted these presents this last weekend, and I'm going to start with mine first, and that is the Detroit Lions. Of course, you had to have known I was starting here. I mean, this was probably the biggest gift of them all, and I'm going to start out with just a number, just a fascinating number here. If you live in America, this number is very fascinating now, but 65 cents is how much an average gallon of gas was the last time the Detroit Lions won their division. I mean, I don't know. It depends on where you live in America, but I don't know if you've gone out, checked gas prices lately, but it's not 65 cents. If it's 65 cents where you live in America, please tell me because I'm moving there. I would love to pay 65 cents for a gallon of gas, but that's not the story right now. And when was that year exactly? Well, me and David weren't alive yet. And that was 1993. For those of you who don't know, me and David were both born in 1994. So 1993 was a long time ago. That is 30 years since the Detroit Lions last won their division. Well, they just did it this last week against the Minnesota Vikings, where they clinched the NFC North. And man, David, this is big. I mean, this is big for not only the Lions, but for the NFL. I mean, when we think of the Detroit Lions, we think of the brown paper bags. We think of just death, taxes, and losses. It's almost a guarantee when it comes to the Detroit Lions. But here they are. They are division champs of the North. I mean, how are you feeling about this, David?
Well, I picked the Lions to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, and I felt really good about that prediction. Now I'm kind of walking back on it just a little bit, just because the Lions defense has been inconsistent all season. But I figured that they would be a good team, and as far as that goes, they haven't let me down. I feel like I feel like the story with the Lions is a story of redemption because, like you said yourself, when you think of the Lions, you think of brown paper bags, 0-16. Might I remember? And don't forget about Dan Campbell too. In fact, I believe Dan Campbell's first year with the Lions, they went like 3-11-1 or something like that. I know they had a losing record, and I think they had a tie. And even last year they got off to a horrible start, but the Lions front office stuck by Dan Campbell, and their patience has been rewarded. Dan Campbell's perseverance has certainly been rewarded. I remember when he was the interim coach for the Miami Dolphins, and I don't know if you remember this, but everybody was comparing him to that character from South Park, PC Principal, because he looks exactly like him, which is really really funny because it's revealed in an episode that PC Principal went to Texas A&M, and I'm pretty sure that's Dan Campbell's alma mater. But really happy for the Lions fans, man. I mean, they've been through so much suffering. The city of Detroit definitely deserves it, unlike a certain team, which I will mention toward the end of this episode.
Yeah, this is the news that Detroit needed to hear, and you hit the nail right there, David. At least in the good spotlight here. But Dan Campbell, I really like the guy. I really like Dan Campbell and what he brings to that team. He is that coach that he's going to have your back, no doubt, but he's not there to just be your friend. He wants to hold you accountable, and he'll also hold himself accountable. And those are perfect ingredients to a great head coach. And he's doing phenomenal there. To see the turnaround that they've had there in Detroit is amazing. But it it, it all starts on many different levels. And when you got a guy, and I'm going to toot my own horn here, being an Oregon Duck fan, but like Panay Sewell on that offensive line, it starts there. It really does. And one guy does not make an offensive line. So I want to make that clear. But Panay Sewell, he is really carrying a great load for this Detroit Lions team. And it's just great to see his success in the NFL. And we're going to talk about another offensive lineman later on and just how important that position really is. But Jared Goff, I mean, he's doing a just a phenomenal job as well at quarterback. When you hear Jared Goff, yes, you know that he's the first overall pick, but he hasn't lived up to that potential. But I think he's doing great. Jahmyr Gibbs, they have a great recipe for success on the offensive side. The defensive side is going to have to come together more if they want to get more serious when it comes to the playoffs. So they do have their work cut out for them. But that was the biggest present of them all under the Christmas tree, in my opinion. Detroit Lions, 30 years it's been. But there has been another great present under the Christmas tree. And actually, this is more towards home for David Street. So, David, what's that gift that you also saw?
How about them Bucks, baby? We were 4-7 at one point. We looked to be dead in the water, and I openly criticized our coaching staff. I criticized Todd Bowles. He's still not my favorite. I don't think he's the best coach ever. But I think he deserves some kudos for this turnaround, going from 4-7 to now 8-7, and we literally just need one more win to clinch a third straight NFC South title, which is just insane to think about when you remember where we were before. And also just give a huge shout out to Baker Mayfield as well. I remember when we were 4-7, and a bunch of people were like, "Oh, look at Baker, Tampa. Like y'all thought he was going to solve your issues because they were looking at his time at other places as well." Which I never understood why Baker got the brunt of the criticism, because even when we were losing, if you look at his numbers, Baker was performing fine. I won't sit here and say that he was performing at a at an elite level or even great, but we weren't losing because of Baker. And now that we're on a 4 game winning streak, and Baker is uh, getting more love now. Like, hopefully people can see that, like, no, the issue was never Baker. The issue was that we had a horrible run game, which out of nowhere has just you know, just come out to be a much better unit than what it was before. And then shout out to Antoine Winfield Jr. I mean, I mentioned him in our last episode. Our secondary in general hasn't been great. In fact, it's been one of the worst secondaries in the league. But it's not because of Antoine, man. Like, that dude has been a monster all over the field. So shout out to the Bucks. Shout out to the coaching staff for turning things around. And let's go clinch this division, baby.
Yeah, that's not going to be too hard to do in that NFC South. But, let's not forget Baker Mayfield as well as a number one overall draft pick.
Hmm.
It's just unfortunate he got drafted by one of the most toxic teams and franchises in all of sports, and that's the Cleveland Browns. But
Yeah, a team that's somehow 10-5 with
yeah,
a
I know I
revolving
shouldn't
door
talk
quarterback.
too bad about them because yeah, here they are 10-5. But Baker Mayfield is, he was the number one pick, and that shows because he does have potential. And I may be one of the few that says this, but I like seeing his success that he's having right now in Tampa. And is it, amongst the elite? No, but it is success, and that is something that usually is not synonymous with Baker Mayfield's name is success. So unless he was at Oklahoma, which he did have success there, but that I'm talking about the NFL here. So Baker Mayfield and this Bucks team with a 4-game win streak is a great sight to see, and it's great for the fan base as well. And you could speak to that also, David. But Tampa, here they are, 4-game win streak, and they're looking to clinch the South here. So that was a great present for David Street come Christmas Day. I know that. But another present, and this was one of those that, just like I said earlier when I talked about death and taxes being certain, I'm going to talk about a player and I'm going to talk about a team here. They both equally were given a great present come Christmas, and that is the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. I talked about death and taxes being certain. Well, there's one more thing that's certain, and that is a team that is being disrespected. And when a team is being disrespected and they're out there against the quote unquote best team in the NFL, well, they're going to come out there and they're going to show you why they should have never been disrespected. And that's what the Baltimore Ravens did. And I'll tell you what, guys, I have not seen the Niners look so uncomfortable in my life, but that could be that they played a guy like Lamar Jackson. And if he hasn't put the league on notice yet, well, he did now. Overnight, after what the Baltimore Ravens did against the Niners, you saw the MVP race swing completely. Lamar Jackson was getting love and praise, but he was not up there with Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey. But now he is. Now he's the favorite. And all because of this game. And this was a potential Super Bowl matchup here. It still very well can be the Super Bowl matchup that we will see. But Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, they did what they wanted to do. They wanted to put the whole NFL on notice. They wanted to put the media on notice that don't ever disrespect us. And it's true. They should have never been disrespected, but I know that we have not disrespected them. And if you remember several episodes ago, I've talked about how the Niners and the Ravens are the most complete teams in the NFL. You look at their offense, you look at that defense, and they are complete. That's one thing the Ravens have always been great at is defense. I'm a Steelers fan. I know that personally. But to see this offense click, especially with the injuries they have suffered, not only last year, but this year, they are just getting better and better each week. And Lamar Jackson, I don't know about you guys, but he is looking as cool as a cucumber back there now. And that's scary. If Lamar Jackson is able to kind of just slow down what's going on in his head and really calculate what's going on the field, that is a scary quarterback. You're talking about a quarterback, and it reminds me a lot how he was in college and how what we saw this year with Jaden Daniels in the Heisman race is he's not choosing to run first. He's choosing to throw first, and he's making highly calculated throws. And if that's not there and it's an emergency, he can run. And guys, do we know Lamar can run the ball? You can remember about 3 years ago, this guy's a running back at quarterback. That's who they got. They got a running back at quarterback. No, guys, they've got a quarterback now at quarterback, and that's scary. So I feel like Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens did exactly what they intended to do, and they showed why they should be up there as the best team in the NFL. So, David, I mean, is that what you saw when they beat the Niners like this?
Well, yeah, no, definitely. I think with the victory, the Ravens are now the clear-cut best team in the NFL, and I also agree that they've been getting disrespected too much. And I believe I mentioned it on this show before, that they were very underrated despite their numbers clearly being among the best in the NFL. But I have to go on a little rant here. Lamar Jackson should not be the MVP favorite, and it is a freaking joke that he even is the favorite. He is not top 10 in any category other than QBR, I believe. And even as a rusher, he isn't really sticking out. Certainly not sticking out in a way that warrants MVP hype. Now, this isn't like, 2019 where he absolutely stood out above the crowd. I believe he led the league in passing touchdowns. He had 1,000 rushing yards. He's not going to get 1,000 rushing yards this year unless he just goes bonkers on the ground his last 2 games. 2019, he 100% deserved the trophy. Nobody else was close to him. But this year, like Matthew, the guy I believe is 14th in touchdown passes. Like there is no way that anybody with a straight face can look at me and say that Lamar Jackson is the MVP. Okay, tell me one category other than QBR that he's top 10 in. You can't name me anything.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers may not be there, but when you're watching his gameplay, I can see why he's in the discussion, and it's similar to what we saw kind of with Jordan Travis this year with Florida State. Well, he may not have been up in there in the top 5, top 10 in a lot of categories, but his team was undefeated, and there was a lot of discussion that he should be up there. But with Lamar Jackson, you're seeing him evolve more as a quarterback. And I'm not saying he deserves a award or trophy because of that. You're in the NFL. You need to evolve as a quarterback or you're gone. But by seeing that, it really is nice to see his game transform a lot more and his gameplay itself and why his team is up there in first place. But there's still a lot to be talked about when it comes to the MVP race itself. And, we're going to talk about that more. We're going to have an episode here where the three of us, and if you didn't notice already, Ed Smith is not with us today, but he will be back next episode. We are going to have our predictions on who we think is going to be the MVP winner, defensive player of the year, offensive player of the year, rookie of the year. And we're going to go through that entire list. And we're going to have a lot to say when it comes to that. So pay
Yeah,
attention to that.
and I will say, like, this year just feels like a year where it's like, well, nobody's really truly standing out. So let's just give the trophy to the quarterback of the best team.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at Patrick Mahomes. It's the year of the anomaly. Patrick Mahomes is not there. At this rate, they're just going to give the MVP to Taylor Swift most likely. So uh, that's just what it's come down to. But we were just talking about the Ravens and the Niners game, and there was a giant gift that was given there to the 49ers. And David, I mean, let us know about this big gift they were given.
Yeah. How about it, Matthew? I have never seen anything like it. A team getting a safety purely because of a ref. And what I'm shocked is that apparently there's no loophole there. There's no rule or anything like clearly the ref's fault, and yet you're still going to punish the Ravens. Like, are you kidding me? Now I don't know. Maybe you might argue that it was ultimately Lamar Jackson's fault why he got the safety, and that's why they gave the Niners the safety. I don't know, but I hope the Niners cherish the gift as much as they could because that was pretty much the only gift they got all night because they got destroyed. And I know they scored a late touchdown in the end to make the game look a lot closer than what it was. But I think Baltimore I think they took feet off the gas pedal, and they easily could have scored at least a couple more touchdowns
Yeah,
in
I
the
mean,
end.
like you said, it's something that you've never seen before because it doesn't happen often. I mean, these refs are usually very, light on their feet. They're quick. They're because they're watching the game. They're not out there staring off and daydreaming. So this doesn't happen often. But the ref is part of the field. They are part of the game. The same way, same thing goes if you're a running back and you trip over the referee, it's still considered, down. Well, I mean, you would have to be touched, but it's just how the game is, and it's unfortunate how that worked out. But with the ref falling over and Lamar Jackson tripping over him and having to kind of maneuver, it did kind of create the whole intentional grounding situation in the end zone, which is why they called the safety. But it doesn't happen often. You may never see it happen again, honestly. He could have been more like Dan Orlovsky and just ran out the back end of the end zone, but he chose not to, at least. So, but
Yeah, I think Lamar was definitely trying to avoid that situation,
I
but
mean, wouldn't you? It's one of those things that kind of just sticks in your head, like, do not be Dan. Do not be like Dan. Don't do it.
dude, like Dan Orlovsky is just like he's an interesting character for sure. Like I think one of the weirdest tweets I ever saw from him was that apparently he likes to put ice cubes in his beer, which I don't know, Matthew. Do you put ice cubes in your beer?
I do not.
Like sure,
I'm human.
yeah, like sure, like maybe in in your whiskey or your rum or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, you know. But like your beer, it's like brother, your beer should already be ice cold enough. But
Yeah, I feel like the tandem of him and Will Levis probably like to hang out. I mean, put mayo in your coffee and ice cubes in your beer. I mean, that just sounds like the perfect weirdest combo out there, but it may make sense. But
yeah, but hey, listen, he won't. Dan won't apologize for how he lives, and you got to respect him for
hey,
that.
yeah, just continue to live however you want to live, but he'll never live down the running out of the back of the end zone, and he's fine
No,
with that. That it's just
no.
live with it now. But not everyone was gifted presents this Christmas, and some were gifted lumps of coal, and well, this was one of the biggest lump of coal presents that I saw, and that's not even really a present. You just got a lump of coal. And that is the 49ers, but that is the 49ers with Trent Williams hurt. Trent Williams is regarded as one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL, and you could probably make a case that he is the best offensive lineman in the NFL. And he's proven that time and time again on the field. But off the field, when he's not on the field for the 49ers and for Brock Purdy, they are atrocious. They are just they're ineffective. That is what they really are. They don't know how to function, and it is crazy. You've heard of that before when maybe your star quarterback's out. I mean, you remember the New England Patriots when Brady was injured, Matt Castle. The Patriots were not the same because your star quarterback was out. Well, this is an offensive lineman, so it's weird to hear that. Maybe if it was the center, because each center does snap the ball differently. There is a science to that, but an offensive tackle, and that is what we've seen with the 49ers and with Trent Williams. He's just that good. I mean, he's like the Florida State analogy that here they are with Trent Williams and the Niners just don't know how to perform. And well, without Jordan Travis, they're the Florida State. Here they are not in it. But I just want to go over a couple stats here with Trent Williams. Brock Purdy, his record is 11-1 with only 3 interceptions. It's amazing. Without Trent Williams, Brock Purdy is 0-3 with 8 interceptions. So, you can make the argument that, that's on his blind side. But Brock Purdy just looks flustered. He does not look like the MVP Brock Purdy that we see usually on a week basis when Trent Williams is out. So that just shows you how much and how effective Trent Williams is for the Niners because, Well, the numbers don't lie. They just don't know how to win when he's not there. They can't put those pieces together when he's not there. And it's almost like I said before, like your star quarterback was out, but instead this is your offensive lineman. And so David, who is a Bucks fan, we talk about is it Tristan Wirfs
Yeah,
on the
worst.
Bucks and Penei Sewell, who I mentioned earlier. Those
Mhm.
guys are elite, but if they're hurt, do you think their team just won't win a game?
Good question, bro. Um, I actually think we would still win. Like, let me tell you, in my in our lifetime, since we're the same age, Trent Williams is probably the best offensive lineman that I have ever seen. Like nobody else can touch him. Like, of course, there's been plenty of elite offensive linemen. You just mentioned a couple, Tristan Wirfs and Penei Sewell, and there's others out there as well. But Trent Williams stands out above the crowd, man, and it's a shame that offensive linemen never get any love. I mean, all bias aside, I firmly believe that Tristan Wirfs should have won Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2020 because if you look at his numbers, he allowed just one sack while facing an incredible army of elite defensive linemen. Like to do that, in your rookie season is just incredible. Obviously, without Wirfs, I think we would look a little different. But I don't think Wirfs is on that level where if he's out, then like the sky falls. And that's no disrespect to Wirfs at all. I love Wirfs. I'm a huge fan of him. This just says more about what an elite talent Trent Williams is, and just how important he is to San Francisco's success.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not like say if Tristan Wirfs were out, Penei Sewell, uh, yeah, I think those teams could still win a game, but it would be obvious that they were missing their best offensive line. I mean, we're playing in a league with the likes of Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Max Crosby. I mean, the list goes on. And those guys, they feast on injuries. So when there is an offensive lineman that's out, guess what? Those guys are like sharks and there's blood in the water and they're going to go after their replacement. So it would be obvious, it would be apparent that those guys were out, but I still think the teams can still win. I mean, there's 11 guys on each side of the ball for a reason. So you got one guy hurt, you got your 10 other players there that need to step up, including the replacement of that player. So it's just crazy to see that a team like the Niners of their caliber be such atrocious when he's out. But speaking of atrocious, I want to talk about the Denver Broncos. And there is some developing news here that I'm going to have David cover here, but they may actually have the fattest lump of coal over the weekend.
Oh yeah. So when it comes to the Broncos, Matthew, correct me if I'm wrong, but they can still make the playoffs if they win outright, or do they not control their own destiny anymore?
I don't believe they do. I think they needed to win that game against the Patriots, and
Oh,
their
I believe
destiny is gone.
well, well, yeah. I don't know what to say about the Broncos, man. I mean, before I praised them for making an insane in season turnaround, they seem to be at least well on their way to a winning season. Now they could still end up with a winning record. They would have to win the rest of their games. But a game against the Patriots, who, listen, in fairness to the Patriots, like I know they have a horrible record, but their defense has been rock solid all season long, which is not surprising because Bill Belichick is a defensive mastermind. So expect a Bill Belichick defense to at least be good. But when it comes to the Broncos, yeah, I saw today that apparently they're going to move on from Russell Wilson, which is completely shocking to me. Like literally the first time I saw it on my phone, I was like, wait, what? Because listen, has Russell Wilson been elite this year? No. And to be honest, he'll probably never reach that elite level ever again that he had with the Seahawks. But the dude had like what 26 touchdown passes, I think, and interceptions. He's not playing at an elite level, but I don't think he is playing at a level that's so bad that he needs to be cut. And what's also crazy to me is that apparently he's known for some time that the Broncos were going to move on from him. So much for Broncos country or Broncos nation. Let's ride. I don't remember if it's country or nation. But you know what this tells me, Matthew? If Russell Wilson isn't performing horribly, not at all, but they're still going to move on from him, something tells me that this goes beyond the field. Like something like, and I don't want to, I don't want to start anything here. But Matthew, please correct me if I'm wrong. But weren't there reports of Russell Wilson having turmoil with the Seahawks during his final time there? Like didn't the Legion of Boom like legit hate him? Like I'm pretty sure I remember that, but I just want confirmation.
Absolutely. And I mean, there was a reason that he got booed when he came back there. So, and it was not him being like a traitor. There was some ugly bad blood that was shed up in Seattle. So, I do I know exactly what it was? No, I'm sure it's out there. It's the internet. You can find just about anything. So, but yeah, it has to be off the field, because if you didn't see as well in the reports, they're going to take a $65 million hit on this of dead space. A team does not do that unless there is some serious issues going on. I mean, I'm talking serious. So this is big development news. I honestly, I mean, he's not that elite quarterback anymore, but this is Russell Wilson we're talking about. And well, is it something that's happening off the field?
I mean, I think it's got to be, man. I mean, listen, maybe it is a coincidence. I don't know. But it just seems awfully fishy that the same guy who pretty much got ran out of town from Seattle is now apparently going to be cut, despite again putting up good enough numbers. So unless I'm told otherwise, I believe this is 100% off the field issues, and it seems to me like Russell Wilson just isn't that well liked in the locker room. And like this may sound kind of harsh, but I don't know. Like the dude lately has been coming across as a complete phony. Like he puts on this good, happy-go-lucky act in front of the camera, as if he's like compensating for just being a miserable person to be around.
Well, when you are a professional of that caliber, you kind of have to. So, to play devil's advocate there. So, as a professional athlete, you have to do those things because you have to kind of separate that. You don't ever want to come across as a prick or that you're having issues in your personal life, because the cameras are always on you. And when you have accomplished the things he's accomplished, they're always on him. I mean, to me, he's always seemed actually like a stand-up guy, a great guy. What he has done, especially in the city of Seattle at the Children's Hospital there, and I know he's done it in Denver as well. Actions speak louder than words, and to me, until I see otherwise, he has been a great model citizen on what he does and giving back to the community. But it's just when you see things like this, you have to be kind of skeptical of, well, there's definitely something happening in that locker room outside of the field, because they're willing to take that much of a hit. But it's weird to see him as a backup. And next year, he's there's no way he's going to retire on this note, but
No,
there's gonna be the pick of the litter next year from the draft, and then now having Russell Wilson. So some teams are going to really want that veteran. I mean, look at what the Browns are doing with Joe Flacco. There, he became this resurgence that they needed, and here they are, pretty much playoff bound. So Russell Wilson's going to be a quarterback for a team, this veteran guy that someone's going to need. But it's just weird to
like
see him as a backup.
the Steelers, maybe.
He's already past that. What sounds like we're getting Justin Fields, but I mean, like I said, it is weird to see him as a backup. But I would love to see him with a guy like Bryce Young to mentor
Mhm.
him. Bryce Young needs that. I mean, he needs obviously a great head coach there too. But to have someone like Russell Wilson, let's not forget how great Russell Wilson was in Seattle and what he did. I mean, besides that horrendous Pete Carroll goal line call, I mean,
Mhm.
he would have had 2 Super Bowls there. So, and he probably would have been the most loved guy ever there, but nope, he's not anymore. So, but I'll tell you who, even though people say they're America's team, but to me, they just don't get, I mean, they just don't have a whole lot of love from a lot of fans, and that's me included. That's the Cowboys. I'll tell you what, I'm like Stephen A. Smith. I love talking crap about the Cowboys. It's just so fun. It is. And if you didn't see the video of Stephen A. Smith, him smoking the cigar, wearing his cowboy hat, he loves when the Cowboys loses just as much as I do. You know, the saying of, don't kick them while they're down. Well, that's exactly what I love to do when it comes to the Cowboys. And it's just so easy. They're 3-5 on the road this year, and they only have one win on the year against a team over 500. The Cowboys are just, I want to say they're the most almost inconsistent team in the NFL. I mean, maybe behind or above my Steelers, but the Cowboys are very inconsistent. You don't know what version you're going to get of the Cowboys, but I think their just record is padded. And David has said it before, with only having one win against a team 500 or better, it's definitely padded. But they went to Miami to play a very tough Miami team. Miami is first in their division, rightfully so. So this wasn't going to be an easy game, but the Cowboys, with their track record, they aren't good on the road, and they aren't good against teams over 500, and that's exactly what happened. It ended up being closer towards the end, but it was a 22-20 victory for the Dolphins, and the Dolphins were leading much of the game, but the Cowboys, they did start piecing it together towards the end, and they actually took the lead with just a little over 3 minutes left. But the Dolphins stormed back, and as time expired, Jason Sanders hit a game-winning field goal at the end. But Cowboys, I feel like every year, though, they're getting this lump of coal. And they're going to continue to get that lump of coal at Christmas as long as Jerry Jones is involved like he is. They need what New England is about to do. Obviously, we don't know the details of what New England's about to do, but they are going to clean house. It's apparent. And when they do that, they're going to see in a couple years they will have that success. Bill Belichick by no means is a cancer to the Patriots, but Jerry Jones is for Cowboys. So
Mhm.
I don't want the Cowboys to do good. That's just me as a fan. But if they want to, be better, if they want to really have that franchise that they used to have, it starts with getting rid of Jerry Jones. So the Cowboys, though, that like I said, 3-5 on the road, only one win against a team 500 or more, and I just think that this is just the recipe for failure they're going to have going into the playoffs, unless they play. And I hate saying this, a team like the Lions. I think they can beat a team like the Lions, and they may end up being matched with a team like the Lions, but the Cowboys, they're going to continue to get that lump of coal every year, like I said. So I'm sure David feels the same way.
Oh yeah, and I totally agree with you that they're the most inconsistent team. In fact, I think they're more inconsistent than your Steelers, Matthew, because I think with the Steelers, you pretty much know what you're going to get from them. A team that plays like shit for most of the game and then just miraculously pulls a win out of the hat in the end. And then with the Cowboys, like there are some games where they look like legit Super Bowl contenders, and then there's other games where they just look like trash. I mean, a 3-5 road record, man, is absolutely atrocious. Like like you're listen, I know all regular season numbers get thrown away once the postseason starts, man. But the Cowboys, like they're not going to clinch the number one seed in the NFC. So like they're going to be on the road during the playoffs. And if you don't know how to win on the road now, then like why should we believe that you're just going to like suddenly turn it around in the postseason? Could they? Yes, absolutely they could. We've seen teams make weird turnarounds like that. But this is also the Cowboys, and we know what we're going to get from the Cowboys, man. Like general good regular season play, but then they just fall apart in the playoffs. And as far as the Dolphins go, have they clinched their division yet, or do they need one more win?
I want to say they need one more. I mean, on a side note, Buffalo, the way they're playing right now,
Yeah.
should be pretty scary. I know they probably should have easily beat the Chargers, but they didn't. But the Bills, their record in December is very scary.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Well,
yeah.
yeah. Well, when it comes to the Dolphins, man, like everybody gives praise to their offense, but can we give a shout out to their defense as well, because the Dolphins might honestly have the most underrated defense in the NFL. Like, as far as total yards go, I believe they're fifth. Like, I believe they're in the top 5 in total defense. Like, this is literally just like their 72 season, when if I remember correctly, that was the year of the no name defense, because the offense was getting all of the attention. Well, it's kind of the same thing here. I mean, the Dolphins have the best offense in the league. Um, but nobody's even talking about their defense, even though, like, they probably should. I mean, Javon Holland has been playing at an elite level, and Bradley Chubb has been playing great too. And then, I don't know if you saw this, Matthew. You probably did. It went viral on Twitter, but there was a guy, and I laughed my ass off when I saw this. But there was a guy who wrote, "Nobody is scared of Tua. We're scared of that nerd with the play sheet."
I'll tell you what, Mike Daniels, he may be my favorite head coach in all of football. That guy is a character. And if you haven't looked, you need to look up these videos of him. He's just funny. He's one of those guys that he's just naturally funny, like Kevin Hart, where he can say anything, you're just gonna laugh. But this
Yeah.
guy is goofy. He looks like a nerd, but he's that offensive prodigy that we were talking about, a couple weeks back, of these young head coaches that came up, the McVays, the Shanahans. Well, he's one of them. And guess what? He was in the same room as them. It's crazy to see that staff that they had several years ago, all on one team. But yeah, he's a character. So that nerd on the sideline with the play sheet, be very scared of him. He may not look
Mhm.
scary, but he's scary.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Mike McDaniels absolutely is a nerd, but if the Bucks fired Todd Bowles, which I don't think we're going to, and at this point, I think Bowles definitely deserves to stay at least another year. But if we did move on from Bowles, would I want that nerd with a play sheet? Hell yes. And you'd be an idiot to say no.
Yeah, he's going to be the future of the NFL. Whether it's his personality or his play calling, and he deserves to be up there. But I want to talk about the future of the NBA and the future of this one specific team, this franchise. Earlier we talked about Detroit, the Lions. They brought this happiness to the city. Well, that was short lived, because, well, there was another record that was broke for the city of Detroit. And David, I mean, you got to tell us of this pure comedy that we're seeing right now in the NBA with the Detroit Pistons.
The most losses in a row in a season. Like, what was it, 27, 28? I think it was 27, but something like that. Matthew, my lifetime, the worst NBA team that I ever saw were those Sixers teams in the 2010s. I think this Pistons team might actually surpass all those Sixers teams, man. Because, see, the thing with the Sixers, I think pretty much everybody knew that the Sixers were losing on purpose.
Mhm.
Like, they were losing on purpose to stockpile on high draft picks. So now they've been one of the best teams
Markel
in
Fultz.
yes, and now they've been one of the best NBA teams in the league for the past few years or so. Matthew, I don't think the Pistons are losing on purpose. I think they're just straight ass.
And
Like,
it's
I think,
shocking.
dude, like, I I don't I legitimately don't think they even know how to run an NBA team, because they were trash last year. They were trash this year, but, like, they have been piss poor for, like, the past 4, like, 5, 6 years. And Man, like you just got to feel for Cade Cunningham, man, because like this is the second game in like the past week or so that he's put up 40 points, and the Pistons still lost. And listen, a lot of times you might look at a team's record and you might put the blame on the coach. Well, who is the Pistons coach? It's Monty Williams. Well, let's remember that Monty Williams was the coach of the Phoenix Suns, and the Suns went from being a laughing stock to like one of the best teams in the NBA just like that. Now, it wasn't just because of Monty Williams. I mean, James Jones, I believe their GM, is, I think, probably one of the more underrated GMs in the league. I mean, he's done an incredible job of drafting, trading, and all that. And so, no doubt, that was a big reason why why Monty was able to have success in Phoenix. Well, he's not having even close to that same success in Detroit. But I think you can see what my point is here, Matthew. Is you could be a legitimately good coach, but if you're dealing with an incompetent GM, then there's really like nothing you can do about it. Because I truly believe that Monty Williams is a great coach, but unfortunately, he is stuck in by far the worst situation in the NBA. What do you think?
Yeah, well, it's just like you said. It to me, it is so shocking. This is a team. I mean, they clearly aren't trying to lose, but they are losing. But they shouldn't be losing. When you have the likes of Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Bogdanovich, I mean, they've got players. They really do. They just don't know how to put it together. I mean, I remember, I'm a Sacramento Kings fan. I remember when we drafted Keegan Murray. And we drafted him, and everyone was like, well, maybe you guys should have gone for Jaden Ivey. But, Murray just last week went 12 of 13 from 3-point range. And he's been talked about as one of the up and coming players in the NBA. And now the only time people are going to talk about Jaden Ivey is, well, he's part of that Detroit Pistons team that has lost 27 games in a row. So they've got a lot of work. I mean, they've dug themselves in a very big hole. Monty
Oh
Williams is
yeah.
going to have to really try to get his way out of this, but
And
it
Matthew, like you got to figure that the Pistons fans are hungry right now, right? Because there's some kind of thing that the Pistons do where if they win a game and the fans get free free wing stop, those fans are hungry, man. Like they're desperate for some wings.
yeah, they're getting antsy. They're getting ready to create another Malice at the Palace. I mean, that's how crazy and ugly this is for a fan base. I mean, they're probably sitting there, they're laughing, but do you ever want to see your team lose 27 games in a row? Do you ever want them to be on this side of the history? This is just like a quote from the movie Major League, Major League with Rick Vaughn. Uh, you know, I thought you had to do something good to be famous, but not if you do it colorfully. Well, that's exactly what the Pistons are doing. They're going down in history, but not in the best reasons. So this is a big shot to the city of Detroit, especially when you just had your Lions win the division, first time in 30 years. You have the Michigan Wolverines on the cusp of hopefully a national championship. I mean, there is a lot of great things right now for the city of Detroit and
hmm
Michigan, but not this. But
Yeah. Yeah,
uh,
and it's always good when you can have that one good team you root for that can offset that one bad team you root for. I mean, take it from me, like I'm a fan of I'm a Florida Gators fan, obviously, and we just had our third straight losing season. And I'm also a fan of the Bucks, and we're literally one win away from winning a division title. So anytime you're dealing with a situation where you cheer for a bad team, but you also cheer for a good team, well, that good team makes it a lot easier for you to forget about the bad team you're cheering for.
yes, no, I agree 100%. But earlier we talked about how the Niners, how they are essentially without Trent Williams, and how big of an impact just one player does. Well, there's a team in the NBA that now, since they've got their star back, things are starting to look up for them. And I'm talking about the Memphis Grizzlies, and I'm talking about Ja Morant. Ja Morant, since he's came back, has pretty much been in the news every night. He is a human highlight reel, in my opinion. When I watch him play, he reminds me a lot of an Allen Iverson, but mixed with like a Russell Westbrook. I mean, Ja Morant could jump. I mean, that guy can jump out of the arena. That's how much air that guy has. But he's quick, he's fast, a lot like Allen Iverson can uh do spin move after spin move. I mean, I haven't seen moves like that honestly since like an Allen Iverson, and that is a huge compliment. But Ja Morant, his first game back after his 25 game suspension, won the game, buzzer beater against the Pelicans.
Hmm.
Well, welcome back to the NBA, Ja Morant, and he's not slowing down. And in the 4 games he's been back, they are 3-1. The Memphis Grizzlies are 3-1. He's averaging 28 points a game with 5.7 rebounds to 9 assists. I mean, those are complete numbers right there. Doesn't have to average a triple double, but he's got the stats where they need to be as a star player, and that's exactly what he is. He's a star player. Off the court, he is not a star citizen by no means, but he is a star player on the court. And since he's came back, there is a resurgence in that team, and you're seeing a guy play like he had no time off, no rust whatsoever.
Do you, because obviously the Grizzlies got off to a horrible start, but do you think they'll be able to turn their fortunes around enough to make the playoffs as like a seventh or an eighth seed?
Oh yeah, easily so. I mean, there's still plenty of games left in the. So we have an 82 game season. He was suspended for 25. Right now, I think they're looking out at about maybe the 10th seed, but there's still plenty of time to get up there. And with having the seeding, how they do it, they give a lot of teams plenty of chance to actually
Yes,
make
yes they do.
the
Yes they
playoffs.
do.
So, and they have the new postseason tournament rules where teams that are outside the bubble can still make it. So they give a lot of teams chances, and the Memphis Grizzlies, I think, will make the playoffs, even if it is, like a 7th seed. So there'll be a team to definitely watch out for come down the stretch.
Yeah, for sure. And also, Matthew, didn't the Heat make the finals last year out of the play-in spot? Did they go to the finals last year or
They did go to the finals. They did indeed.
yeah.
And I want to say they did. They went 2-0 in the play-in. Yeah, they
Yeah,
went
yeah.
2-0. And yeah, they made it, and they went all and I'll tell you what, once that happened, it was like they never looked back. I mean, they coasted through the Eastern Conference playoffs, and they
Yeah.
made it to the finals, but you ran into a Denver Nuggets team with the Joker and
Oh yeah.
Murray. I mean, it just for them, they were such a complete team, and once they ran into them, it was just bound to happen. I mean, they ran into the Lakers, but and that's when LeBron beat them, but that was the COVID year.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some finals matchups out there, Matthew, where you can just tell who's going to win just purely based on paper, and that was definitely the case with the Nuggets and the Heat last year.
Yeah, well, the Nuggets were such a heavy favorite just in the playoffs in general. Uh,
Yeah.
it didn't really matter who they were going to play. They were the heavy favorites, but the Heat had such a great playoff run in the Eastern Conference Final. It actually
Mhm.
made things a lot closer on the Vegas sports books when it came to that. But needless to say,
Yeah.
Denver was still um, the the heavy favorite. But
And
really quick, oh, go ahead, David.
oh, I was just gonna add, like, let's also not forget that that was the second Cinderella run that Miami made in like the last 3 or 4 years, man. I mean, Eric Spoelstra is a phenomenal coach. Like I honestly think he is the best coach in the NBA. When you look at, I mean, like I said, two Cinderella runs from the Miami Heat in the past few years. Like, you can't look at that roster and tell me that you predicted before the season that the Heat were going to make the playoffs. Now, yes, having Jimmy Butler certainly helps, yes, but a good chunk of that is because of coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jimmy Buckets, Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero. I mean, they do have the players there. They really do. Bam Adebayo, but in the end, it was Eric Spoelstra. I feel like, yeah, his coaching abilities, and then Jimmy Butler essentially as a one man wrecking ball really put the team on his back too. It helped propel that playoff run. So, I mean, props where it's due, and it was phenomenal just to see him go from that. Play in the playoffs to go all the way to the final. So that just shows you the kind of head coach he is.
For sure.
But that is about all we have today, folks. We appreciate you always turning in, watching us, and continue to hit that like, that subscribe button. Go in the comment section. Just a kind of sneak peek. We're going to do a show here soon where we're going to talk about your comments, whether it be on this show, shows prior, and we're gonna kind of talk about and see how you guys are feeling about things. So please continue to comment. That's just going to help us out even more. And who knows, your name may be on this show because we're going to talk about it. So go ahead, comment on there, share these videos, and just continue to support us, guys, because we really do appreciate that. We will have Ed back next episode. I'm sure you guys missed him. We miss him, that he's not being on this show. When we miss one of our guys, it kind of throws things off because we work all together. So we'll see Ed back next episode, but we will also see you guys next episode too. But until then, we are rounding third and we are headed for home.